Hello viewers, welcome to Vault of Wisdom. I'm with Pastor Serena Kagwa. Mzee, last time we met the other Friday, we discussed a few things and two things left an impression on me. One was the Garden of Eden. The second, the 6 pillars of Christianity. You challenged us and honestly, I had no clue what the 6 pillars were.
Or fundamental teachings
Yes,
of
or
Christ.
fundamental
Teachings of Christ, or
yes.
elementary teachings of Christ.
I noted them down, but we shall get to them in the next episode because I want to understand deeper, and I'm sure whoever watches will want to understand them deeper. I had taken such things for granted. I didn't even know they existed. One thing that was sure that I've been living by faith towards God.
Okay.
That one, I've been consciously
Aware of that.
yes, and living it.
Yeah.
As far as 2011, I think that is the earliest I can remember when my faith towards God really became concrete. It moved from merely
Passivity.
talking but it went into
Yeah, I would say.
G and application. Yes, living. But we shall get into that next episode. First, the Garden of Eden. Why the Garden of Eden? What was the significance of the Garden of Eden? Because if God's plan was to create man and let him fill up the earth,
Yes.
why the Garden of Eden? And there is something else you mentioned. Eden was a big place, region, but the Garden of Eden. So east of Eden, yes, east of the Garden of Eden. What was the significance of that?
What I believe was the significance, because nothing is recorded in Scripture is of no significance. It has significance, and many times when the context is right for application in other settings, they are like patterns and types of things which are so big in God's mind, but you can only understand them in that setting. Patterns, or sometimes they call them shadows, patterns and types. So Eden, in the broadness of that word Eden, there is mention of Eden in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 28, that you are in the garden of God, Eden. Now, they are talking about a being that was there in Eden, and every precious stone was on him, and they are talking about, many scholars believe that they are talking about Lucifer, who is now known as the adversary, whom he calls Satan, because Satan is not his name. It's a name that means adversary, but Lucifer
Is his real
name. Now, according to the biblical scholarship or studies, that's what they say. But now the word Eden comes again in that. But I want to draw from this kind of pattern. I understand God creates the earth full of raw materials, and he picks a certain spot. I think it was a strategic spot because of the description of the settings of the location. There were rivers, there were precious stones, there were gold, and in that setting, God planted a garden. I want to avoid Eden. I want to use
the garden.
Because there's less controversy in between there. Because some of it could be our reading. The Lord God planted the garden in east of Eden. Now, sometimes we call it the Garden of Eden, and sometimes we jump conclusively that it was Eden. So if it was a big place, if Eden was a region, at least God planted a garden. Now the garden is my focus. Eden, I brush aside. It was a kind of a pattern for man. God created a kind of domicile for the man to live, a special place, cut out place to live in, prepared and set for him. And he gave him two responsibilities: to develop it When he said till it, that tends to developing it and guard it. So he had to till it, develop it from the as nice as it was organized and arranged by God. Man could add something on it, and whatever he adds on, he had another responsibility of protecting it, an implication that there could be danger if you don't watch out. So this is my understanding, that this was a pattern of how man can develop the earth and make typical gardens, just like his father has done. You can be in one and then understand the pattern, and then he can go and replicate it somewhere. Suppose Adam gave birth to children, beget children, and they live in that space and they grow up. As man, as I know, they would have that adventurous spirit
To live.
and go and find somewhere else. So they have something, they will have a pattern of how things should be. So they can go to any piece of land and
do the same.
develop it
Or even better.
and make it better. So God leaves room for us to make things look good in our own setting. That's something God given. Like he gave us the right to name names. He doesn't name names, but he gave all that to man. Now I believe in setting man in a garden of his own construction. He was just giving him a place to stay and feel good, but also to give him a pattern of how things should be done. I'll call that garden a city. A city, common cities. When we are building cities, I think I can recall where these ancient settlers, they would come and begin a settlement somewhere. First, there would be, if they are religious, there will be a church. And then from the church, there will be a school. Then they construct
A
a
hospital.
hospital. Then they can construct a marketplace. And then around those kind of structures, other things develop around. So there are some main
And organically.
there are some main things, main structures that need to be there. Now, in the case of the garden, there were four rivers flowing and resourcing the garden. So I can see a pattern of things, of how man can develop himself and his surrounding and make the place better according to his testing. And God planted every tree that is good for food, and even trees just good to look at, besides the many animals that were in that area. So I would see it was kind of a pattern of development, of setting up. Because when he said, let there be trees, plants and animals, those things sprang up all around the globe, not in that center. They were not springing up in a garden. But God picked a position, a location, and made a fine concentration of things. Trees intentionally planted. He planted. He did not say, let there be a garden. He planted. Literally, he organized the things, resources, and put them there intentionally to make a place comfortable for man, so that man can learn from that and
move
improve
on.
from that and move on. So
Multiply.
if that garden was the first city, now look at how many cities we have. You have been I wouldn't say global traveler, but you have moved there from Kampala and gone to other cities. When you went to South Africa, you are impacted and impressed by the settings you found there. And what did you want to do in return?
Wanted to do that.
In Uganda here. So you copy a pattern and you transfer it to a certain location and you translate it there, so that people who have never seen New York can have a taste of New York in Kapchora, in Karamoja, places in Uganda here. Those who have come to Kampala was constructed by the white man. We had Mengo for a city. It was the seat of the king. It is on a hill. That's where he had his palace. I've got some pictures of as well as in the 20s, 40s, how Kampala looked like. Now, if you come and look at Kampala, it is quite different. So men have developed systems of roads and other networks that make the place beautiful. And we always want to come from our rural areas to come and be city dwellers. So man is supposed to live in cities, organized settings, well-organized settings, not just be contented with whatever you find there. If God made this place, the landscape hilly, and some trees there, and you just come and find your pitch and you stay there. And
you can improve that location.
You can improve that. You can make it better. That's what I would construe from that. Otherwise, it may sound like just common garden. But why did God take time to organize it when he had already created everything? He was setting a kind of precedence for his son, because Adam was created a son of God, and he planted him here. God, who knows better, gave him something to start with, and man had got to draw from his ingenuity and develop things of that nature. So, in fact, I would say, from the garden, we have many more gardens. One who has traversed the globe can tell so far how many gardens, when I say gardens, cities, or settings, it doesn't
that are organized,
have to be, but settings that are well organized
and have a pattern.
Yes, I know you are not a landscaper, but something that I'm trying to see how I can describe you. You are an architect of settings. You look at places and your imagination blows up, and you see how these settings can be organized, acres and acres of land, how they could be organized in agricultural form or residential form, so that any person who sits in there can look at the beauty of God's creation and appreciate, and out of that, they are drawn to worship God. So God does good things for man, so that man can learn from God and replicate the good things for his fellow, and also even make it better. Because God flashed us with raw materials. It's up to us to discover what is material, what is good, and try to organize it in our own way. And God won't be angry when we build something that seems to be better than what he said. That was his pattern. Give them the raw materials,
because he gave us that DNA of creation,
and give them the brains. Pass on their DNA of creativity to them, and let them watch them create things, marvelous things that are set out for the common good, to the glory of God. It's only turns sour when men or a man begins to take large portions of land and develop them according to his liking, not concerned about others, doing good things for himself. That does not glorify God. When we do good things for common good, common sharing, then we glorify God.
I've understood it in the context of business, entrepreneurship. There is something we call a minimum viable product. You have a vision, but out of that vision, you crystallize that vision into the smallest possible version, and then you start from that. So I look at the Garden of Eden in that context, that God's plan, his vision was for man to fill up the earth, but he created for him somewhere to start, somewhere with a pattern, somewhere that was well resourced, and then from there he would
go and
multiply
and duplicate that. In his multiplication in numbers, wherever he goes, he should organize himself in a setting comparable to the garden God gave him in the first place. So he cannot blame God. I don't know how to deal with this. God organized the first setting, and you have to learn that, okay, when you have such trees in the sparsely distributed, you can reorganize. You can plant trees where they are not. You can clear trees for a particular purpose and create space for certain construction. You can utilize rivers for beauty and also for transport. Management of earth resources.
I've understood. Thank you so much.
Welcome, sir.